Hello everyone, I am Adrian Clenth Pinote. I'm currently affiliated with AIM Co-op or Aurora Integrated Multipurpose Cooperative as an area manager, and I will give a short introduction for my discussion this coming Saturday, October 3. My topic is Financial Rehabilitation and Insolvency Act or FREIA of 2010. For the long title, FREIA is an act providing for the rehabilitation or liquidation of financially distressed enterprises and individuals. Just a quick history. Former Senator Juan Edgardo J. Angara sponsored the bill on the Senate floor in 2009. In that exact same date was the centennial year anniversary of the Insolvency Act of 1909. So it was 100 years gap before the Insolvency Act of 1909 was repealed. Now, before Freya, claimant's chance to recover his investments is only 4.4%. While in sharp contrast, Japan's recovery rate is at 92.5%. This is a clear indication that the insolvency framework or the insolvency regime of the Philippines is far from other countries. Now, with Freya's passage, our recovery rate now stands at 21.2%. And because of that, we ranked as the 50th in the Resolving Insolvency Index in a pool of 189 countries. Section 2 of Freya. It is the policy of the state to encourage debtors, both juridical and natural persons, and their creditors to collectively and realistically resolve and adjust competing claims and property rights. The rehabilitation or liquidation shall be made with a view to ensure or maintain certainty and predictability in commercial affairs, preserve and maximize the value of the assets of these debtors, recognize creditor rights and respect priority of claims, and ensure equitable treatment of creditors who are similarly situated. When rehabilitation is not feasible, it is in the interest of the state to facilitate a speedy and orderly liquidation of these debtors' assets and the settlement of their obligations. Now let's define insolvency. Unlike the Insolvency Act of 1909, FREIA do not limit insolvency to a situation where the debtor's assets are less than its liabilities. It now covers a situation where the debtor is unable to meet its obligations as they fall due, even if its assets are more than its liabilities. Okay, we have rehabilitation and liquidation. Rehabilitation means to resuscitate the debtor or to help the debtor bounce back its business. In rehabilitation proceedings, the debtor maintains their assets in order to continue business operations. On the other hand, in liquidation, the debtor preserves their assets in order to sell them. Now we have kinds of debtors. We have the natural person and the juridical person. When we say natural person, it is an individual debtor and it is a citizen of the Philippines. When we say juridical person, it pertains to non-human legal entity. So like corporation and organizations. And it must be authorized by law with duties and rights. Now I've made this simple illustration, no, for the Freya. So we have the debtor. When the debtor becomes insolvent, so it's either rehabilitation or liquidation. Now if you can notice, there is a line, a cracked line from rehabilitation to liquidation. That means that during a rehabilitation proceedings and it becomes apparent that there is no chance for the business to bounce back or to commence rehabilitation, then the court may order to convert that rehabilitation into a liquidation proceedings. Now, there will now be three ways that a debtor can be rehabilitated. So we have the court-based, the pre-negotiated, and then the out-of-court. For liquidation, we have the individual and the juridical. It was explained earlier. Individual, we have the suspension of payments. Now, the suspension of payments may be voluntary or involuntary. Same with juridical. Voluntary means that if it is filed by the debtor. Involuntary if it is filed by the creditor. This will be further explained during our class this Saturday. Now, for the liquidation order. Once the liquidation is deemed meritorious, then there is a liquidation order. The liquidation order shall declare the debtor insolvent, order the liquidation of the debtor, and, in the case of a juridical debtor, declare it as dissolved. Order the sheriff to take possession and control of all the property of the debtor, except those that may be exempt from execution. Order the publication of the liquidation order, together with the petition or motion to convert the rehabilitation proceedings into liquidation proceedings, if any, in a newspaper of general circulation in the Philippines once a week for 2 consecutive weeks. Direct payments of any claims and conveyance of any property due the debtor to the liquidator. Prohibit payments and the transfer of any property by the debtor. Direct all creditors to file their claims with the liquidator not later than 5 days from the time the liquidator takes his oath of office, furnishing a copy thereof to the court. Authorize the payment of administrative expenses as they become due. State that the debtor and creditors who are not petitioners may submit the names of other nominees to the position of liquidator, and set the case for hearing for the election and appointment of the liquidator, which date shall not be less than 30 days nor more than 45 days from the date of the last publication. Now, the conclusion of the case. In rehabilitation proceedings, it is formally concluded through a court order either declaring a successful implementation of the rehabilitation plan or a failure of rehabilitation. For the liquidation proceedings, these are formally concluded through a court order terminating the proceedings upon, first, determination that the liquidation has been completed according to the FREA and other applicable laws, and evidence showing that the juridical debtor has been removed from the registry of legal entities in the Philippine Securities and Exchange Commission. Okay, so that is my short introduction for my topic, and this will be further discussed this Saturday, October 3. Thank you.